Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a live stream on taxes, and taxes. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Got my AirPods in, my trusty AirPods, and I think everything is working well, I hope. Yes, that's a blanket in the background. It's covering a bunch of junk. My office has been a bit of a junk pile lately, but that's it. So I'm going to wait a little bit before we go ahead with everything. But the reason I wanted to do this video, guys, was quite simply to have you guys jump on and I can answer any questions that you may have regarding taxes. Now I'm going to do a brief kind of a talk about the taxes and how they work, and a lot of people are really confused about it. And so we'll talk about that first. But then what we'll do as we go through this is I'll answer you guys' questions. So there should be a chat box if you're on the live, and I can see everything you guys are typing. So I just had my workout this morning. Got a bit of a runner's lung going on here, and no, I didn't run outside. So if you're on and you're watching this, write a comment. Make sure you guys can hear me. I see a few people on. I just want to make sure that it's actually working. It looks like it is. I can see everything that looks like it's working. So anyways, guys, I'm just going to close my door here. So if you are in Calgary or area, oh my gosh, it's cold. Minus 30 this morning. Feels like minus 37. It is brutal outside. I haven't been outside since yesterday, and I don't think I'm going to be going outside today. Might go outside to start the vehicle for a little bit, but today's an inside day for sure. All right, guys, so I'm going to talk a little bit about briefly in the beginning here, we're going to talk about taxes and how it works with Skip the Dishes or with any gig scenario. Keep in mind, I am not a tax expert. I've said this in my previous tax videos. Not a tax expert. I highly recommend that if you have any questions, you guys seek out an accountant and ask them questions because they know all the tax rules. I could be wrong. I could be right. So just preface the video with that. But when I do my taxes, guys, every year I use a program called TurboTax. And I just logged on this year, and basically it is, I think I pay about $100 to use TurboTax to file my taxes. Now, I do them all myself, and for my personal scenario, it is more than just simple taxes. So there's a lot going on in my tax scenario. I mean, I've got my regular job and I've got my gig stuff that I do. So, driving for Skip the Dishes, Doordash, Instacart sometimes, but so there's that income. But then there's also YouTube income as well too. So there's that side of things. I build model aircraft for people, and so there's quite a plethora of various items that my taxes need to incorporate. So mine's a little bit complicated, but we'll keep this fairly simple. So one of the general questions is, do you need to pay taxes on your Skip the Dishes or your we'll just say gig earnings? Yes, you need to pay taxes on your gig earnings. Do you need to pay taxes on your tips? Yes, you need to pay taxes on your tips. Now, if somebody gives you $5 cash, you don't necessarily need to pay taxes on that. You should, but that is entirely up to you if you claim that cash money. But your tips come from, and your payments come from the provider. So Skip the Dishes, whatever, right? So you do need to pay taxes on your skip income. The gig businesses that you're working for, like Skip the Dishes, they do not take taxes off. They do not give you a T4. It's all up to you to figure all that stuff out. That's better. So you need to pay taxes on all that stuff. That's a really common question. What happens if you start driving middle of the year? So let's say it's June, you sign up for Skip the Dishes and you start driving in June. How does that all work? Well, you need to, number one, you need to keep track of your mileage on your vehicle. So if you, regardless of whether you start in January or if you were to start in June, you need to have a starting point for the year. So let's say your vehicle had 100,000 kilometers on it. You need to have a starting point. So if you keep a manual log, a spreadsheet, if you use one of the apps that track your mileage, you have a starting point of 100,000 kilometers. So the entire year goes by, and just give me 2 seconds, guys. The entire year goes by, and you drove 50,000 kilometers in total. So at the end of the year, you have 150,000 kilometers on your vehicle. You need that block of time or block of mileage, distance, kilometers, to figure out the ratios of what you use to make your money through the apps that you work and your personal driving. So you need that total of 50,000 kilometers or whatever you drove in the year. And then you need your mileage log of what you drove for the gig economy. So if you drove 25,000 kilometers, you total up all your kilometers, your miles, you drove half of it with the gig economy and the other half was personal mileage, then all your ratios of everything you can write off is 50%. So let's say you spent $1,000 on gas in the year. 500 of it is going towards your earning your business income or your gig income. 500 is for your personal driving. 50% of your insurance. That's another thing you can write off, right? Maintenance. There's a lot of things that people can write off. And it's definitely in your best interest to use those things to minimize the amount of taxes you have to pay. So now let's look at it from, I guess, my perspective. If you have a job and you still work in the gig economy. So I'm just going to make my screen bigger. Here we go. If you guys are on here and you can just write a comment if you guys have any questions on the chat itself, the live chat. If there's anything you want me to talk about regarding taxes, put it in the chat. And if not, then I won't have anything to talk about when question time comes up. So, okay, so let's look at this from a perspective of how things work for me. So let's say you have a job, and in my previous videos that I did on this, I use just round numbers, and that's what I'm going to do again as well too. So these numbers they don't mean anything. I'm just using round numbers to keep things simple. Okay, so you have a job. I'm just going to make some notes here so I can show you guys. Okay. So you have a job that you make $100,000 a year at. Okay, and you pay, we'll just use simple numbers. You pay income taxes of 25%. So throughout the year, your employer takes off $25,000 in taxes. So at the end of the year, you file your taxes and you basically have made $75,000 and everybody's happy. The government's like, okay, yeah, you've made enough, or you paid enough taxes, you don't owe any more taxes, and you're all good. Everything's fine. Then what happens though is you start driving for the gig economy. And how much are you? Perfect. Thanks guys for writing that in. So you start working for the gig economy and you make an extra, again, we'll use simple numbers. So you make an extra $10,000 in the year. So now you have made $85,000, okay? But the government, you've only paid them $25,000. So there's a problem there. The government wants their share of the $10,000. So keeping with these simple numbers, they think that you still owe them $2,500. Okay, so which you do. You still owe them $2,500 because you still need to pay 25% of that $10,000 you earned in the gig economy. And that's where the importance of the write-offs and your expenses come into this whole scenario. You know, there's power, guys, in not being an employee. I'm an employee for a company, but I'm also a subcontractor. If you're watching this and you drive in the gig economy, you too are a subcontractor. So you can use these write-offs to offset the amount of taxes you have to pay. So the way this works is, so you made $10,000 with your gig job. Okay. Now let's make a list of things that we can write off. So gas, and again, I'm just going to come up with random numbers here. So $1,000 in gas to make that $10,000. Insurance. Maybe you spent $1,000 on your insurance. And again, it's all ratioed based on how many kilometers you drive. Maintenance costs. Let's say you spent $500 for oil changes. You put new tires on your vehicle, and that cost you 50% of it, so $700. And so let's total that up. So that's $3,200. So to make that $10,000, you spent $3,200 to make that $10,000. So then what happens is you take the $10,000, you minus the $3,200, and that gives you $6,800 that you actually earned. So you actually only need to pay taxes on the $6,800, not the $10,000. So that is the importance of using your tax write-offs. So 25% of 6,800, do the math on that quickly, because I'm not that awesome. 6,800 times 0.25. So basically, instead of spending $2,500 on taxes of that 10,000, now you only need to pay 1,700. Right there. So that's how the write-offs work, and that's why it's important to use these things, keep track of these things. Some people say, oh, it's such a pain to keep track of kilometers. It's not hard at all, guys. I have, this is going to seem really archaic, but you know, I come home every night and I write it on a piece of paper, right? And that's how I keep track of things. And then when tax time rolls around, what I do is I put it all into a spreadsheet, compile everything. I've got my bundle of receipts, and I just add up all my gas receipts for the year. So there's, you know, it doesn't need to be overly complicated. And when I say hire an accountant, you don't need to hire an accountant to manage all this stuff for you. You know, if you compile it at the end of the year and hand your accountant your bundle of stuff, of your information, they might come back to you and have a couple more questions, but you're going to save a crap load of money on your taxes. Now, you don't need to hire an accountant. It's not going to be too expensive. It's been a long time since I have hired an accountant, but you can also use TurboTax if you want, or one of those tax softwares. I'm not by any means pushing anything upon you, but that's what I use. That's what I've used for 10 years. And it's so simple. It goes through and asks you all the questions. It's not hard at all. And then the other benefit is if you use the TurboTax program every year, it already knows what you used previously. So every year it cuts down on the amount of stuff you actually need to enter. So, okay, so Carrie asked a couple questions here. How much of your cell phone bill can you write off? And again, guys, this is not this is just my suggestion to you. I don't know if this is right or wrong. So I write off 100% of it, because without that cell phone, I can't do skip the dishes or Doordash or anything like that, right? So I claim the entire amount. If it's wrong, it could be wrong, but that's what I use. So, and then Hebrew Hammer wrote, you can only claim the airtime on your cell phone data. Okay, so again, when I do my taxes and I'm using TurboTax, I just add up my cell phone bills for the entire year, and that's what I put in. So too bad you couldn't keep the 25% of 10K being $2,500 and subtract the $3,200 and get a refund. Yeah, no kidding. That would be awesome. Now, the other thing too, guys, is, and this is just a suggestion from my end, but there's power in having a home-based business as well too. And I know a lot of people, they've commented on previous videos when I've said this, pyramid schemes and things like that. My suggestion to everybody is get involved in network marketing. Me and my wife have been involved in network marketing for a long time, and there's power in those write-offs, and there's power in having an office space that you're able to write off at the end of the year with taxes. And that's at the beginning of this. That's why I mentioned that my taxes are a bit more complicated than just having a job and working a gig economy. There's a lot of different facets to what we do in our life. So with YouTube as an example. So I make money on YouTube. I need my computer to do YouTube. I need my garage to do YouTube. I need my office space, my lighting equipment, my camera equipment. So there's, there's benefits and all that stuff. Now, it does get to a point, whether it's the gig economy or a home-based business or YouTube revenue, where you're making more money than you're able to write off. So eventually, typically, you're going to start making more money and you are going to have to pay more taxes on it. And that's okay, but you still want to have as many write-offs as you can, or as many expenses as you can, to offset the amount of taxes that you have to pay. Why pay the government more money when you don't have to, right? It's your choice. So, hey Ace, how you doing? I'm glad you guys enjoy the videos. Obviously, it's been quite a bit slower for me, and the reason for that is just busy in other parts of my life. If you're a subscriber on the channel, you know that we're currently trying to build a house, and that's been quite a bit of stress in our lives. So it's been interesting. Hebrew Hammer, when will Skip send year-end statement for 2020? I don't worry about it. What I do is I go on the website and I print it off there. So when you go on the website, you can actually look. So the website is Courier Portal, I think, or something like that. I just type in my web browser, Courier Portal, skip the dishes, and it goes into it. So you're able to log in. That's the same login information that you log into the app with. And when you go on there, you can see your entire earnings history. So for me, it started in 2019 in January, and you can print off the entire thing or just a section of it or whatever. So then all I do is I go in there and I just add it all up. So I don't wait for them to send me the year-end statement. Excuse me, guys. The other problem with the year-end statement, I think, from memory, is that they don't put your tips on that year-end statement, I believe that's what happened last year. Is I got my year-end statement, I looked at it, and I was like, that's totally not wrong. It's like 50% of what I earned. And so then I went on the Courier Portal and printed off that and just added it all up. And that Courier Portal, it's got total income. So it's payment for the delivery, it's top-ups, it's tips, and everything all compiled into one. So Carrie said, I don't have to do personal tax return and business tax return. Nope, you don't have to. If you have a job and you drive for Skip the Dishes, unless you have a corporation set up, which I don't see why you would in that scenario. Unless you have a corporation set up, you're just a sole proprietor. So in that scenario, you just have to do your essentially your personal taxes, but you are going to say that you claimed money through other income sources, I think is how they word it. And then you go through the whole process of being a contractor, sole proprietor. You don't need to do a business tax return. Now, if you do have a corporation, of course, that's where things get different. If you for some reason, if you made a crap load of money with Skip the Dishes, maybe you want to set up a corporation. If you have other businesses like YouTube and stuff like that, maybe you want to eventually set it up with a corporation to ultimately lower your taxes that you're paying. So, but it does get more sticky because then you have to do a corporate tax return or business tax return. Is it separate forms for every company you drive for? Do you need to keep kilometers driven for Doordash separately or for different forms? So no, it's not separate forms for every company. So when I do it, I just compile it all into one. So I've got, basically you have to have trying to think of the name. It's the industry code. You have to have an industry code when you do your taxes. And I don't know what it is offhand, but it's easy to find with a Google search. But the industry code, essentially when you do your taxes, industry code 0000, and you earned $10,000 in the year with 0000. It doesn't really matter whether it's Doordash, Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, that kind of stuff. So for me, I keep it simple and just compile it all into one. I don't see why you would need to separate everything out, because I don't think it matters if you differentiate all that stuff. It's just you working as a subcontractor and you earning money as a subcontractor. So, awesome, guys. Any other questions that you have regarding taxes? Make sure you throw them in the comments section. I'm just trying to think about anything that anybody else has asked previously. Yeah. I can't think. My mind is blank. So Carrie said, I don't have a corporation, but I did ride sharing and food delivery. And with ride sharing, I had to sign up as a business just to get an HST number for ride sharing. Do I have to do a business return for that? That's crazy. I would just do the HST tax paper. I wouldn't do that as a business return. I'm surprised that they made you do that. So Carrie, did you collect in that ride sharing scenario? Do you have to collect the HST or taxes, basically GST? And that's one important point, guys, is remember that if you're located in Canada, things might be different from province to province. So I'm located in Calgary, Alberta. Generally our tax laws are similar all across Canada, but in Calgary or in Alberta, we only have GST. We don't have PST or anything like that. So, ooh. So John asked, thanks, John. Can you explain how capital cost allowance works? Honestly, no idea. I know I've come across it in TurboTax, and it's asked me about it before. I think I dealt with it back in 2013 when we purchased a vehicle for our network marketing company, and in that scenario, we had the vehicle that the network marketing company paid for. So basically, we had to buy it. They reimbursed us for it on a monthly basis. But really what happened was when that scenario came about and I was entering the stuff in TurboTax, all I did was answer the questions that TurboTax asks, and it basically takes care of everything. So it asks for the purchase price or the lease price, and it figures all that stuff out for you. So I don't know how it works. I just let TurboTax figure it out. So unfortunately, John, I don't have any other information on that scenario. And like I prefaced this video with, I am not a tax expert at all. So Carrie answered, they paid me the HST they charged for the rides. Yeah, so in that case, you basically, obviously you were collecting the HST and you probably have to pay it back. So it should be, and don't quote me on this, but it should be just as simple as doing the HST tax paper, because you didn't sign up as a corporation, right? So in my mind, you're a sole proprietor. that has been collecting HST. And in that scenario, you just have to pay the HST to the government who wants their money. So, yeah, so that's pretty much taxes in a nutshell, guys. And yeah, Carrie said, mine will be confusing adding CERB, CRB, and food delivery. Yeah, it does get more confusing. I'm not looking forward to this year in particular because things totally changed for me. Obviously skip the dishes, my job, that has stayed normal, but now we've got the YouTube side of things. We've got some other income with building planes with my other channel and things like that. So it definitely gets more complicated, and I couldn't imagine doing this on like the paper forms. I think the CRA website also has free software. I know somebody has commented on that as well too previously. So there is free options. Obviously, I don't think it walks you through how to do anything. So you have to do quite a bit of research and maybe have to understand everything around the taxes. And again, that's why I use TurboTax, guys, because it's like completely simple. You just answer the questions. So that's basically it, guys. Unless you have any other last minute questions, I think that is probably going to be the end of this video. Hopefully this answered any tax questions that you may have. Ultimately, make sure that you are using your expenses to maximize the amount of taxes, maximize the amount of taxes you don't have to pay to the government, right? Obviously, don't lie. Make sure you claim all your income, but make sure you keep track of all those receipts. Make sure you keep track of all those expenses. Utilize those things to offset the amount that you will end up paying. John said, sign up for CRA My Account. They will have the tax information you need for any CERB and CERB payments. Just have to copy those numbers over to TurboTax or SimpleTax. Perfect. Or whatever tax program you use. Yeah. So if you guys don't know, the CRA My Accounts, it's actually really simple. So if you sign up for a My Account, you can log on to there and it shows you everything, right? Like obviously the government knows all this stuff, but you can go on there and you can print all these different forms and your notice of assessments and all that kind of stuff from previous years. So it's all on there. But so that's it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully you are staying warm today. It's brutal outside in Calgary. As I talked about, it's like minus 37 right now. So it's an inside day for sure. But thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks for hopping on to this YouTube Live. I appreciate all the support. And thanks for putting up with the house build videos that have been coming through as well, too. I know it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to what videos are being released. But hopefully, guys, if you're watching those, you're enjoying those as well, too. We are at a bit of a roadblock right now. We're still trying to figure out financing, but I think we are pretty close to having that all licked and solved. So have a great day, guys. We will see you in the next video.